right.
All right. So here, I think this is just the first one that we have pulled up is the locust in front of a sunset, and we can sort of break down what's going on here. The way that most of the shots in Revival were built were basically by setting out a series of art assets that were layered over each other, and then moved through Adobe Flash's tweening system, which basically says this shape is here on frame 1, and then you can move it to like here it is on frame 50, and you can like change that transition, and it'll like smooth out the transition between the two.
Okay.
Using that system, which is honestly just like a really simple premise, you can get a whole lot of like really dynamic motion out of it. And then lastly, you basically put in a last sort of symbol that has a bit of scripting attached to it that tells the program, hey, this is actually a camera. Whatever this thing is pointed at, that's sort of where everything shows up. Okay. So we have a full like background and template of how the full shot moves, right? Like that's what the working file looks like.
Okay.
But then I'm just gonna pull that down a little bit so I can hit the commands here. Then when you actually go in and sort of export the video, you get that sort of motion. And even now we're starting to see the things that broke Flash here. There's some blurs and lighting effects that just eat up the system's RAM when you're trying to test it in a real-time environment. So we're only getting like 1 or 2 frames here. So you had to export this and like render it out as its own video. So we can actually zoom in, and there's like a lighting layer, an overlay layer to get that sort of like cool dramatic look. There's our background or our foreground motion just like coming through here. If we can click into this guy, we got a little locust running around. Yeah, this is actually made out of, this is a really good example of the sort of animation style that Flash is known for. Flash works on something called tween-based and symbol-based animation, where you have individual, like it's a cutout shape, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically like that is a specific asset that I can then drag around and like rotate, or like change the proportions of it, right? And what you do is you just say, this is where this bit is on that frame, and then you move it to the next frame, and move it to the next frame, and you have these little icons here called keyframes and transition points between them, ultimately leaving you with a sort of one moving piece that you then add on with a second moving piece. The more moving pieces, the more like dynamic motion you can get at. You have like the little torso running around, that little like bobbing motion. The antenna like jumping around. The second, that's sort of like a back set of machine guns. And then each of these legs is actually its own sort of embedded animation. And each of these leg portions are their own little piece as well. So this little 5-second clip contains a 2D basically built model comprised of maybe 100, maybe a little less than that, maybe like 60 individual sort of cards and pieces that are then like set into the full animation and moved around like that. We can like even do little breakdowns of like these are the individual parts that move around.
So this is a 5-second animation, you said?
This is about 5 seconds, yeah.
All right. How long does it take to create this 5-second animation? Rough estimate.
This one was a solid day's worth of work.
Okay.
maybe a little bit longer to get all of the details on the Locust model, and just go back and forth, building the model, testing it frame by frame, building all the little portions of it, and then going back and putting it into like the full environment. I think this one. Where are you? There was like a particle system within this sun that was really fun to work around with. Are you way up at the top? Ah, yeah, there it is. We had to basically make our sunlight here is just a whole bunch of ovals that are just transitioning upward. So yeah, so like that's its own like small little embedded animation within itself.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's all just like layered over and over. And that's sort of an idea of like a very simple, basic version of how one of these shots would have been comprised. This is a flat from the side profile shot of a mech transitioning from left to right, and all of the elements of the scene are also moving left to right. Okay. This is sort of Flash's bread and butter. It works really well transitioning things on the X and Y axis, but anytime you want to move something toward or away from the camera, you have to really work to make the program be able to emulate that sort of 3D effect.
Got it.
Which you can.
Is that just mainly tied to the perspective change that's happening?
Pretty much, yeah. Also, Flash has this kind of annoying issue where you can sort of warp shapes in one particular direction, but you can't distort them based on like individual control points. So you can't warp a shape based on its perspective, right? So you kind of, your solutions have to be either hand drawn or broken even further up than you would expect them to be, or just made a little bit more wonky than they probably could be.